Good evening to you all, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank you, António Gil and Arturo, for having me. I'm also impressed by the distinguished audience and by your companies and that you represent. And for me, it's very good to be here and have the opportunity to talk to you briefly. I was also, thank you for having me, but since I'm sponsored the event, I don't know if it is mandatory. So I don't know if that part I will skip, but it's a pleasure to be here. One of the things that we talk all the time, but that I like as most of you, I like figures and I like graphs to solidify our perceptions. And so we are in an age of uncertainty. We all know that. But what this graph shows us is what kind of stability we had in the past. And in the past, we had war Israel-Arab, we had war in Europe, and so on. And you see that the curve doesn't move. Then we had the pandemics, and so clearly it has to move. But the pandemics, we are a bit, we remember very good the pandemics, but some of us, and I was in health that it was saying, it was the greatest shutdown of our history. We didn't shut down in World War II. We didn't shut down in 1929. We have shut down in the pandemics. So it was quite a challenge. It was quite significant for business and for the mankind as a whole. The other point that I would like to stress is in this kind of uncertainty that we all share and that we all believe is what the events on a weekly basis have on this evolution. And we see that, for instance, airstrikes on Ukraine have a huge hike, or, for instance, that the attacks on Iran has also a huge hike. We also have the events of, you all know, tariffs, different positioning in alliances, in NATO, and so on. And so we are nowadays, I would say, not in a time of change, but in a change of era. And that this is not something light. This is something that we should incorporate, because we all incorporate the uncertainty, we all incorporate the change, but a new era, it's required from us, required from people who manage, required from those that invest a different perspective. In terms of the business and as a whole, you know better than me, but of course we have when we see the business, we see the effect that you all know of the financial crisis. Then we see the effect of the pandemics. In the pandemics, there are an effect not exactly as in the financial crisis. You see, for instance, the industrial sector, the real estate demand very high. And this, in my opinion, will happen again. And we have that because of the change in value chains. So we have clearly on the pandemics new investments for the nearshoring. We had new investments for industries that people didn't want more to import from China and be dependent on only one supplier. When you see the performance of the business in Europe, and according to the different areas, and we were speaking before that, of course, We cannot say that real estate is this or is that. We have to segment quite well the different parts and bits of the business, as you all know. But what we see is it is a business that where Portugal doesn't compare badly, and you see the analysis in the long term. Of course, in some areas you see that are much more profit-making than others. And if you have any kind of interest, then you can have the presentation. So I will pass the figures. But what I would like to stress is the green areas, and in the green areas, Portugal compares well with the others. Also, in Portugal and in some sectors, as we all know, it is crucial, the foreign investment. I think Mr. Paulo Portas talked, and he talks very well about this, and the importance of foreign investment in industry, but in real estate, in residential area is important, and I think it will continue to happen. In terms of the country, I think you saw today also, you heard where we are. We compare very well in terms of the infrastructure sector. We compare very well with education at the level of between the 24 years and the 35 years level. So we compare well. Where we compare badly is the population between 35 and 65. So that's another problem. And we compare also in terms of health. And we compare good in terms of health in results, like childhood mortality, like birth, like life expectation, and so on, and also in a network of private services that is increasing and it is spreading all over the country to complement the National Health Service. In terms of finance, we were discussing in nominal terms, what we see is the finance for housing is at the peak. Caixa in these 4 months, if we have June, July, August, and this September, we will finance 2 billion euros in 4 months. So if the expectations for September. So this is the highest part, the highest volume in nominal terms ever. And we represent more or less 24% of the market. So all the market is producing more, and all the market, 50% is for young people with the guarantee of state, but the other 50% is housing, is other kind of property, and around of the 100%, 10% are for investment. We still have, as you know, in Portugal, in residential, we have a problem or a huge opportunity that we clearly have one of the most asymmetric markets in terms of residential property. We don't have an offer. We're on the supply side. We don't have enough offer for all the people that need at affordable prices, namely young people and namely immigrants. Because we need immigrants. We have more or less 1 million immigrants nowadays, a bit more than 10%, maybe 15%. It depends from region of Portugal to region of Portugal. So clearly we have a clear asymmetry between the supply and the demand on this area. Also, in terms of the pricing of this credit, what we see is we clearly saw a decrease in spreads, a small decrease, but a decrease when we compare 25 to 24. We also see, of course, with the Euribor decreasing, a substantial reduction in the the amounts that families have available on disposable income. And you have a positive factor nowadays in Portugal that disposable income have grown for the Portuguese because salaries have increased more than inflation. First reason. The second reason is the installment for the house have decreased. And the third reason is we have a decrease in retention or even in the tax. So these three reasons make that the available income is higher, and makes another consequence that is important, is that people have a higher possibility of indebtedness. You understand me? If I have a lower interest rate, and if I have the same income, which have raised a bit, so people will spend more in consumption. We see that in this quarter, and in the first quarter we had a decrease in consumption. We have an increase on the second quarter, and I think this will continue and if we maintain this capacity of indebtedness. In terms of balancing, Portugal nowadays have an interesting savings. We have for several years a savings around for 1 digit. So nowadays we are 14%, 15%, which is important. Of course, if we have too much savings, we don't have consumption. But as you know, we need savings to finance the investment. In terms of the characterization of the market, and I will not be for a long time in this slide. What I would like to show is the profitability of the real estate and the total in terms of total return when you compare with other countries. And so this is significant because in Portugal you can have a total return that is interesting. Of course, you have to split it according to the segments, and as we expect, for instance, you have better returns and in terms of the luxury and upscale. But for instance, the returns in the mid-scale and also in certain sectors like hotels are very stable. And in terms of hotels, we have some entrepreneurs of that area here. We open in the first semester more or less more than 20 hotels this first semester. For the next year, it is the provision is to open more than 70 hotels. So it continues. The other important thing that I would like also to address is the part of the industry, and I'll come back to that. In terms of trends, price evolution, what we could expect is some decrease in the Euribor. Then this is the central scenario. I don't have any crystal ball. This is the central scenario. Some decrease in the end of the year, and you all know that there are some pressures for the inflation in terms of tariffs. And there are some pressure also in terms of inflation because of the budget deficits of the governments. When we have all the governments in Europe making expand and expand and expand, so that is a pressure on inflation, as it is a pressure on inflation tariffs that put some of the products more expensive. In terms of bureaucracy reduction, what we all know and we see it is in the agenda. This is a complaint that we all have for 40 years, 50 or more. So what here I would say is I think it is difficult for Europe to not listen to Draghi. Tomorrow it will be presented the new Draghi report that the name is more or less something like the Draghi report 1 year later. And so to confront us again with what Europe have done and what Europe couldn't have done. And I think that is a good point in terms of a good eye opener. Also, in terms of in terms of labor challenges, of course, we need to have immigration, and so that but that is not a thing that we should contest. That we could contest other things about immigration, but not the necessity of having that kind of labor work. And of course, the sustainability. Sustainability have been away from the radar because of the policies in the US. And namely, for instance, in part of the banks, the 6 major banks in the United States left the agreement for 2030 in terms of the net zero. But I think that in Europe we will continue to pursue this, I hope, in a more balanced way, but this is a reality. And so clearly, for instance, banks are asked to stress the portfolio of their clients in terms of the provisions of the carbon emissions. Another important issue is we have some solutions for that, and one that I would like to talk is about modular construction. Modular construction, according to this graph from McKinsey, is one of the 20 areas of the future in terms of growth. And so you see that today modular construction is a nice to have, is a thing that is more or less curious, but factories are coming, production is coming, and we have modular construction in all the segments, even in the luxury segments. And so this is clearly one arena of growth in the future. The other point that I would like to make is what are the alternatives for the usual residential or hotel or industrial that we have. In terms of industry, in Portugal we have the terminus of the program of PPR next year, so the investment will be significant next year, and the credit will be significant because we need credit to complement the investment of the state and the investment of private entrepreneurs with the funds of the European Union. Of course, we have more profitabilities with House for Students, with care homes, and we see, of course, that in spite of in the past retail have good returns, we have a question mark on that and also on offices. So I think the area, as I mentioned, that will grow in the future again will be, besides hotels, residential, all the segments of luxury and so on, will be the industrial area. And that is because we need again to nearshoring, we need again to review, companies need to review again their supply chains. And that will happen, and that will cause demand. In terms of the role of the banks and in terms of the role of Caixa. Caixa, as the largest bank in Portugal and the largest in terms of their portfolio in construction and in housing, is interested in increase its finance in this area. We have around 27 billion euros of stock of housing, and we are willing to increase it. We also want we have capital, we have liquidity, we have profitability, we are willing to have more speed, we are changing and transforming our processes, and also we think that the package that the government will issue in this month will be important for the sector. Of course, the main focus of the new program will be I'll go in a minute. The main focus of the program will be affordable housing, so it will not be everything for all the segments, but it has necessary measures, for instance, in terms of court speed, in terms of simplicity, in terms of licensing, and that is not just for housing that is not, will not affect various sectors of the construction. So, all in all, I'm concerned with the world, as we all are, but I'm optimistic for Portugal for the next years, and I'm optimistic for this sector for the short and medium term. The long term, we are there. Thank you.